Hi everyone. So here is a video showing you how to import audio in and do some basic editing. There'll be several videos after this, or at least a few, showing more advanced things. But this is just to get started of bringing audio in and then doing some basic editing. So as you can see, I have a Logic track up here. I probably want to start with an audio track. Of course, I could change it to whatever or add any track I want and then change it to audio, create an audio, whatever. So I've got an audio track since obviously I'm using audio. You can bring in audio several ways. You can either, if you can see your desktop, maybe you have your Logic window not filling up the screen, you can just drag and drop either into an actual track or create a new track if you drag it into below that. Or you can go over to the Media tab over on the right, open that up, and in the Project tab, this is where you would see audio files for your specific project. So I can click on audio, I can say add audio file. I could also just drag directly into that window too, but I'm going to find my file I've got on my desktop along with a lot of other stuff, something called Ye Ice Falls. So I'm going to add that in. Again, could have just dragged it straight in there, could have dragged into the track either way. Now that I've got it, I'm going to now drag it into a track. Since I started with an audio track, I can put it in that track. I can, of course, also add another track, whatever I want to do. I'm just getting the whole file in here right now just so that I can start editing. This is just kind of going to be an editing space, not really where I'm arranging the project. So I'm going to make this a bit larger. One thing I can do is just hit the Z key for zoom. So that will then fill up whatever region or regions that I have selected. It'll fill them up as much as possible on the screen. So as you can see, whoops, I click on that again. So when you click on it, you can see that it's filled it up for as big as the arrange window. If I had had this part closed, it would have filled up the entire area. But this is plenty big. So let's listen to it.
Ye ice falls, ye that from the mountain's brow.
So now that I've zoomed in, I can see the transients and I can kind of tell where individual words are. This is a little soft, so probably the thing that I would want to do first is to go to my track, go to the inspector, and go to the track channel strip. And in the effects, Logic has it in the utility area, they have a gain. Because I could bring the volume up on this track on the volume fader, but that's not going to be enough. I just know from dealing with this audio clip, it won't be enough. So I can bring in this gain. And you want to be careful with the gain one. You don't want to just crank it up. It might be super loud. So leave it on that 0 dB default range and then hit play.
Ye ice falls, ye that from the mountain's brow are down.
And get it at a good volume level, whatever you want that to be. Okay, so now I've got it.
Ye ice falls.
I'm just going to edit part of this. So I have several ways that, in other words, I'm going to slice my audio file up a bit so that I have individual pieces. Maybe that's a word, a phrase, maybe just part of a word, maybe the middle part of a word, beginning, end, whatever. So I have a couple ways to do this. One, of course, I can go to the edge, and if I'm in the bottom half of a region, it's, of course, changing my region's end point. If I put it over on the left, my region start point, I can change that. Notice how it grays out behind it, showing you the original wave form and just where you are basically starting the region. So you're not editing the actual audio, you're just kind of changing where it starts. If you put your mouse in the upper half of the region, of course, in the upper right corner, you're going to get that loop symbol, which we don't want to loop this, at least not right now. So I could drag this to make it shorter. I could do that. Okay, fine. I'm going to undo that. But I could also isolate various things. I'm going to zoom in a bit more. I could use my zoom faders up here, but I'm going to hold down Option, and I'm going to use my, whoops, sorry, don't want to do that. I'm going to hold down Option, and I'm going to essentially use my scroll wheel to kind of go either, I'm going to make it wider this way. There we go.
Ye ice falls.
I'm just going to isolate Ye Ice Falls. Why not? So, as I've mentioned in class, so as I demonstrated this, you have a left click, your regular left click tool, which could be any of these tools. Now for me personally, I pretty much always leave it on the pointer tool because you use that all the time. But again, you can do whatever you want. The other button though is for the command click. In other words, holding down the command key and it'll change the tool to something else. If you notice, I have my mouse pointer pointing at this region. If I hold down command, it turns into that plus sign, which is a specific tool. If I click on these, I can see those tools, and this is called the marquee tool. So the marquee tool will just highlight something, although I can also use the marquee tool as kind of a neat shortcut. I can hold down Command, there's my marquee tool. I can just click right there, created a line, and now if I hit play, it's going to start where that line is, not where my playhead is. So kind of a quick way that you could jump around to start it somewhere else without having to click and drag around the playhead or something like that. Okay, so I've got my marquee tool that I can use. I can highlight that a section. So if I highlight what I roughly think is Ye Ice Falls, doesn't have to be perfect. Now that I've highlighted something with the marquee tool, if I hit play now, it's going to play what I've highlighted, and it'll stop.
Ye Ice Falls.
And you can just do that as many times as you want.
Ye Ice Falls.
Now I didn't quite get the S of Ye Ice Falls, so I could either redraw this and try to get it better.
Ye Ice Falls.
Okay, there it is. Or I could have done my little cuts and fixed it after the fact. The marquee selection does not have to be perfect when you're going to edit this way. Okay, so I'm going to click on what I've highlighted, and notice Logic basically did a little splice right there, did a little splice right there, so beginning and end. So now I have 1, 2, 3 regions. If you look over on the right, you can see that, okay, here's my original entire audio file. Now here are these little splices of where I cut things. They're not new audio files. They're still all underneath this little collapsible thing of audio files for the original file, but they are showing different region points that just have bits of the audio. Well, I'm only going to use this right now. So I'm going to click on the first, delete it, click on the third, delete it. Notice those region points are still over on the right, so you can always grab that and drag it in if you needed one of those other pieces. Also notice that I have this, of course I can position it wherever I want on screen. But now if I go to the edges, the beginning and end edges of my region, I can click and open that up. So if I missed, I wasn't quite where I wanted to be, I can still adjust it. Again, this is non-destructive editing, so I can still adjust that however I want. Let's try to get this a little bit. That's probably good. Let's see.
Ye Ice Falls.
Okay, that's great. So now I have that very simple type of editing. I'm going to drag it to the front, but I've got my very basic editing using the marquee tool to isolate individual things. One little tip for in this video is you might want to actually name these things as you go, because as you can see, every time that I marquee highlight something, click, it does a little splits of the regions. It creates multiple ones. If I know I'm not going to use any of these, I could just delete them. It doesn't delete the file because these are not audio files, they're just region points. But if I am going to use one, maybe this was just the word ye, I might want to double click here and rename that. I'm going to call this Ye Ice Falls Isolated. I don't know, I'm just naming it something. So now I can see Ye Ice Falls Isolated, and if I look over the top of the region, I can see it has also been renamed. Notice that if I have nothing selected, I clicked in the gray area, no regions are selected, nothing is selected over here. But if I click either on the region in the Arrange window or within my media files, it will highlight whichever one I've clicked on. So click on that, oh yeah, that's the one I want. So it's a good way if you're not sure which region, you haven't named them or something, you can click on one in the Arrange one, look over there on the right and see what it is and then rename it. Okay, so that's just the intro to editing. Go on to the next video, which will get into more complex things.